Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's installation of our YouTube channel. The temperature's changed a little bit. It's a little cooler, it's a lot grayer, but it's still warm enough to practice outside, so we're going to continue through our sword form. We're on the second sequence. We're on movement 11. The wind blows the lotus leaf. This is also turn and carry the sword. There's a couple other different names for this, but you're essentially changing the direction within the form. So we've gone through the end of the first sequence. We learned black dragon whips its tail, green dragon emerges from the water, and we'll start from green dragon emerges from the water. Let's do a demonstration of the movement before we turn around and talk about the individual details. So we'll start from green dragon emerges from the water, and here's the demonstration. So the detailed instructions for this one, think through what we've done here. Within green dragon emerges from the water, we've thrust forward in our movement. We are in a left mountain climbing stance. The sword has thrust forward. If you want to be realistic about this, it's actually thrust into a target. And so what we need to do is we need to pull the sword out. So you're going to bring that sword back about 6 to 10 inches. So after you've thrust forward, you're going to pull it back. Your sword secret is going to join. Your weight is going to shift slightly. The reason your weight is going to shift slightly is because you're now going to turn in this direction and you're going to close your left foot. So from here, pull back, shift, close the foot, bring the sword out, turn it over 180 degrees, pull the right foot in, and then step back and across to a mountain climbing stance and cut across. So levelly cut through in a horizontal fashion from the front to the back. So we're in this direction. Do we start from here? Pull, turn, shift, sweep, cut is the movement. Now you've shifted 180 degrees as part of that. So that weight shifting is really important as you go through there. So I'll step back a little bit more so you can see feet. From here, shift, close, shift, transition, turn the blade, step, sweep, and cut across. Again, a full 180 degree turn. Common mistakes we see in this form are usually around not realizing what you're doing. And then as I said, with green dragon, you've stepped forward, you've thrusted through. So if you've thrusted your blade into something, you have to pull it back. So if you start to make your turn here, being kind of realistic about this, if your blade is sticking in somebody, how hard is it going to be to turn it around, through there? So that's really what we say here is, after you've thrust through, you have to pull it back, shift your weight slightly, and then turn over. So if you're just trying to turn and you keep your weight shifted here, you have a couple problems. One is you're trying to turn that sword inside of something, and secondly, you can't turn this foot. So from here, pull it back. You're only pulling back about 6 to 10 inches, but it's enough of a shift here so that you can close the foot here without having to turn your foot when you've got too much weight on it. So that's a mistake that we see, is not pulling back. So pull back. The other one we see is then from here is you're just going to turn around, or you're going to use your arms as the motion. This is a waist turning cut. So all of the power has to come from the legs up through the waist into the arms, not the arms doing the work. So as you pull back, you turn over, you shift, and now I am stepping and twisting with the waist. And the waist is turning. My sword secret balances my hand and twists all the way around with the waist, not the sword coming around on its own. So we'll see that. Again, not stepping back is another one. A mistake that you see is as you shift your weight and turn, you've got to come into a transition stance. Don't just step across, because now you're still in the line. You have to step back and across, because you're in a mountain climbing stance then when you end. So if I think about this from the front and back, this is what I mean. So you're starting from here, if you transition, and just step here, as you come across, you're off balance. You stayed in the line. What you want to do is come from the transition here, step back, and then come across so you end up in a mountain climbing stance. And the last thing that we see is when you come across, this isn't bringing the sword out here. Your opponent is in front of you, your blade should be pointing in front of you. You know, because of the motion of your arm and it being out here, you're going to come wide, but the tip is still pointing forward. So as you transition through this movement, shift, turn, step, thrust, or cut, I should say, cut, coming across the body, that's where you end up with this. Good mountain climbing stance, good stable base, twist, and cut. So for the application of this, we've talked about this a little bit, is I've thrusted through. What I'm doing here is I'm turning and I've got multiple opponents are coming around me. And so this is a stepping, turning, and cutting through. You're going to cut through multiple targets as you come across. So your arc is going to sweep through and come around to the other side here. So you've cut down 1, 2, say 3 people, cutting across and still pointing your sword forward to any other enemies. But that cutting through is really important. So it's again, thrusting in, pulling back, turning. Oh, here's a couple of opponents. I turn and I cut through them in a horizontal fashion, slicing across the center as part of that. So the before and after movements here, as we've said, we've finished up with Green Dragon emerges from the water. So we'll do Green Dragon, we'll do this movement, and then where we're going to next after this. Okay. So after Black Dragon here, we sweep down and cut. We're going to step back and thrust, pull back, shift, turn, and cut. And then we're going to step forward and cut back for the next movement. So you want to be in a good mountain climbing stance so you can step forward and step back in the same motion into an empty stance. All right, so follow along with me. We'll do this one a couple of times just so that you can get the sweeping motion. I'll do it in this direction and then I'll do it facing the camera just so that you can get a little bit better angle here. Again. Now let's do it facing the front. Thank you.